Call of Duty Warzone has a new map on the way, the Pacific, or codename Caldera. And this is going to be really interesting for the future of Warzone, and it's likely that we're now going to see the beginning of real content introductions to Warzone on an annual basis, with each new COD game introducing a brand new map on the IW8 Call of Duty engine. Now, the new map for Warzone was actually recently revealed by an Activision executive. Some people will say it was deliberately leaked, so to speak, and it looks incredibly promising. And in this video today, I want to talk about that map, talk about the entirely new design philosophy for the new Warzone map, and why Warzone is going to change in a huge way with the introduction of this new map and what it has to offer. Now, fundamentally, Warzone in the past is a new product. It's something that the development team are still learning, and they're still learning about Battle Royale. Whilst it may seem inherently obvious that Battle Royales exist and they're this super complicated thing, and, you need to do X, Y, and Z to have a good Battle Royale, that isn't necessarily inherently obvious to the people who are making this game. And you can see with the design of Verdansk that was a good first attempt at a decent BR map, and for what it was worth, Verdansk was okay. There was definitely some mobility issues, some issues with verticality, and some issues with areas being too isolated, but it did its best to provide a fun and dynamic experience, and it was a good first attempt for Warzone. This new map, however, seems to have learned a lot of the failings of Verdansk, combined it into a brand new experience, and has hit the play button to try and do something entirely different in Warzone that we haven't seen before. Now, you may be wondering, well, this is just a map, you're overdoing it, nothing's really going to change, and that actually isn't true. There have been some very key design choices here, and philosophical changes in the map that are going to change the way Warzone works in a number of ways, and we're going to talk about each one of those design changes. The first major one is the positioning of areas and points of interest primarily around the exterior of the map. There are lots of exterior points of interest, a naval shipyard, beach defenses, a submarine base, and all of this appears to be a deliberate attempt into funneling players. Now, one of the issues with Verdansk is because all of the objectives and areas are so centralized and operate primarily in the center of the map, that when the circle closes, you have large numbers of people from multiple different directions coming in at different times. And because they have a fair amount of time to move to the circle, and because they're all coming in from a full 360-degree direction field, you get a very slow mid-game, and 9 times out of 10, you don't get enough gunfights and action. When you position objectives and points of interest on the exterior of the map, what you're effectively doing is halving the ability for players to approach from a 360-degree angle. You are giving players a 180-degree area to approach from, which means more funneling, more action, more combat, and more gunfights in every single situation. If we look at the beach defense map, for example, or the naval shipyard, for example, there are two instances here where players can only approach from certain directions. On naval shipyard, you can only approach from the east and the south, and kind of a little bit from the west before you get funneled in by the water. Now, even if you are able to use boats or vehicles or go out into the water itself, as many people know from PUBG, this puts you in a highly compromising position because you're very obvious. You are a moving object or an obvious object in a flat body of water, and it'll be very easy for people to see you and pick you off. So that kind of gameplay is not preferable, so ultimately you have that 180-degree angle of approach. The same with beach defenses. On beach defenses, you can only approach from the south, the north, and the direct west. And again, the north and the south get funneled by the curvature of the land. I think this is a very intelligent design choice to try and increase and shake up the mid-game of Warzone. They're trying to make it more action-packed, they're trying to force people into more conflicts, and they're using map design to achieve that, which is super exciting. So that's a great new design choice we're seeing in the new map here. Even if water traversal is possible, it's not something people are going to be opting for on a regular basis, and I think you're going to see a lot more action because of this. The next one is verticality. This is a very obvious decision from the developers here, and you can see that this map features a highly topographical map that features lots of peaks, lots of hills, and lots of gullies. And this again is a very deliberate decision. At the moment in Warzone, if you can't find a vehicle, you're kind of screwed when it comes to traversal. You have to find a high up object to try and parachute from, and even then that can be a little bit tricky. So here they've kind of opted to give you some more traversal methods. Now if water is available, you'll have boats, you'll have land vehicles, and now you'll have the ability to reach peaks around the map and use that as a parachute basis to get around the map even faster. I think that's a very deliberate design choice, and I think it's one that makes sense. Warzone needs more traversal options. People who are far away need options to get to places quicker, and people who are close by need options to get into the mix even more intensely. Think about it. If you happen to be on the top of a volcano, it's theoretically possible that you might be able to parachute into Naval Shipyard, the docks, beach defenses, the farm, the phosphor mines, or the airport just from that one single location, which is super exciting, much like some of the abilities to parachute from an area like Dam, but with many, many more options. This also addresses another major complaint of Warzone, that a lot of the buildings have very few limited entry points. In the buildings and some of the maps in the area, there are a couple of zip lines, maybe a ladder, maybe you get an elevator, but on some of them there is just one entryway or two entryways, and that can create some very campy and unenjoyable gameplay. With this verticality, you're allowing somebody to go up to an area like Volcano, or go up to a really tall cliffside, or use a hill or a mountain to then parachute into a point of interest. Think about it. Say for example, if there is somebody, I don't know, on airport roof at the moment in Verdansk. There are very little to no ways to get on top of airport roof in a constructive manner that doesn't involve a helicopter. Whereas in this new map, you'd effectively be able to parachute from a high point of interest into that area, thus creating new fights, and again, reinforcing more intelligent gameplay, people using flanking routes that are a little bit more aerial, a little bit more traversable, and I think it's going to be really exciting. I think this is going to address a lot of the issues we see with campy gameplay, because there won't really be places for you to hide in this map. The final thing I'm seeing is density, and this could go either good or really bad, and we're just going to have to wait and see. And allegedly there are 200 points of interest on this specific map, but this top-down topographical map shows a little less of an interest area and a little bit more of a central focus around major objectives. And we've seen a couple of teasers of what the map looks like. It's very green, it's very tropical, and this could go either way, really. This could either be a raging success where there are lots of buildings, lots of gullies, lots of secret areas for you to check out that offer decent hiding places, decent places to maneuver, or it can be an absolute mess. It can be a situation where there is little to no cover, it's just foliage, people are hiding in bushes all the time, there is nowhere really to use for hard cover, and that can be a problem. Now, the topographical map and the top-down map that we're seeing shows a lot of different variations in verticality, meaning that there should still be some really good hiding places using just the terrain itself, but we're going to have to wait and see how many buildings there are and how many actual structures that are capable of using. But again, if they get this right and there are lots of areas that you can utilize alongside all this verticality and alongside a much more intense mid-game, you're looking at a map that takes all of the problems of Verdansk and effectively deletes them. We're going to have to see how this pans out, but so far so good, and I'm actually kind of excited for this new Warzone map. I think it's going to give some really good opportunities for storytelling, some really good opportunities for diverse gameplay, and some really good opportunities to take away the staleness of Verdansk and provide a new and enjoyable experience. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again in the next one.